there are so many people who made money out of these protests. I'm not silly when I say that all the frontliners need to be audited.
Hey there, and welcome to Fanya Mambo Africa. Super excited today because, of course, I have one of the most sought-after young people, influencers, now turned politician. Others look at him as a traitor. Kasmuel.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi, Sarah. Kosalava.
Ebu, say hi to our people first before.
What are your people? I've heard it's called Fanya Mambo. Is it by any chance related to
No, it's not.
Fanya Mambo?
It's called Fanya Mambo Africa.
Oh, Fanya Mambo
He's just
Africa.
lucky that now he uses that Fanya Mambo.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
My name is Kasmuel McOure. I'm many things, man. Right now, I'm very actively involved in the youth wing of the Orange Democratic Movement. And of course, working very closely with Prime Minister Raila Odinga in matters youth. But we are also doing quite some work with the activation of youth-led movements. Currently working with organizations like Wazalendo and the Youth for Youth movement, which is focused on consolidating the youth constituency. There's the work I do in music, there's the work that I do in mental health activism, there's a work I do in education. Of course now, a bit scaled down because of my current political exposure. But yes, I'm very happy to be here finally.
Looking sharp, as
Asante.
always.
As do you.
Thank
I really
you very
love the
much.
necklace. Yeah.
You've spoken about working with Raila Odinga.
Yes.
But before I go to that,
Right.
people call you Tomboya. I don't know, fake Tomboya.
Right.
I don't know, which other name have you adopted?
Oh, man,
and how do you feel about these
There's
names, by
everything,
the way?
but I'm actually happy that that it's bastardized versions, because I would hate to live under the shadow of a hero, present or past. And I'm Kasmuel. This is my journey. It's unraveling, and human beings like to rationalize. They want to pit you to the idea that is closest to them. So seeing this whole metamorphosis, even seeing some people, like I've become everyone from Jomo Kenyatta to Tomboya to Oko to Arguings to Patrice Lumumba. All these people are being compared to. But I really love it when the comparisons crumble. Because then it allows me to write a story of my own. I'm barely out of my 20s, man.
But out of all these names
Yes.
of people that you're being compared with, who would you go with and why?
I think Tom is rather accessible because he was young, he was well-spoken. The trajectory of his life is pretty much the same. He also went through a period of intense hatred from the people, and he was booed at the coast as a lobbyist. But again, he ends up doing so much in such little time. So Tom is very easily accessible. But we have Patrice Lumumba, Governor Nyong'o likes calling me Patrice. He's also quite something. I feel like I have a bit from all of them, but Tom is more accessible. Is most accessible again because he also loved music and he loved to dance.
Yeah.
And yeah, he has a very great connection with the revolutionary artists of his time.
And now that you've mentioned, I hope you went for the Too Early for Birds Tomboya edition.
I did.
How did you find that?
I did, and it was very eye-opening. I went for the second last show, and I led the chant. So if you've gone for Too Early for Birds, at some point someone is going to lead the chant.
Yes.
I'm the one who started the chant, and there was a cameo. I think my name featured at the thing, but it was eye-opening. It was rather beautiful as a show, just bringing the things that we've read about to life. And at the time, it was a very contextual show because we were at a period of deep unrest and deep political investment from the population. Therefore, it was some exciting work.
And you're leading a chant.
Yes.
Which are you still leading today?
The Ruto must go chant?
Yes.
I mean, he will eventually.
No, you know what I'm asking.
If you're asking in the sense that am I doing the things that I would be doing last year in June?
June, July,
June,
August,
July,
maybe up to
actually,
October.
actually up to October, up to the impeachment of Rigathi. No, I'm not leading. I'm not leading that bandwagon. I'm not leading protests with the view of removing President Ruto from State House before 2027.
So what has changed?
I have had access to more information. I've had a lived experience, and the metamorphosis again. So you see how the protests happened. There were a series of genuine protests, and there are people who emerged from the streets out of the protests in June. And I think it's very funny. I was sharing with the crew that I think the day of the solidarity of all African peoples from South Africa, June 26th, was rather contextual with ours, because for ours was June 25th. But after 25th, as one of the voices that emerged from the streets, there was a lot of things that I did not understand about activism in the country and its state. And then there are also things I did not understand about statecraft. And knowing what I know now, I think there are more sustainable ways of me achieving the change that we were seeking. Because right now, when I went to the streets and when we went to the streets with my comrades, we wanted the government to listen. We wanted the government to institute some certain changes within governance, accountability, especially issues on debts and then unemployment. We did not. There was not so much as we wanted a president to go. But then I found myself consistently being pulled into this wave where I had to keep up with every trend. So every new hashtag, as a person who had emerged, I had to keep up with every single hashtag. And it's tiring. There are people who've tried, and you know them. They've come and they've jumped on the bandwagon, and now they're taking mental health breaks. Because you find yourself in a web of an agenda that you're not pushing. And I remember very clearly the day that I said, I'm never going to go for a protest which does not have the best interest of the people at heart, that I have not organized, that I do not know the full machinations of, and that will endanger the lives of the people I march with. I met a Somali trader who told me that they thought our protests were bad, and that we are bad people and we are not good for the economy. And I told him, no, you're lying. And he showed me his friends' businesses that had been ravaged in Luthuli, that businesses that had been burnt down, someone who had just brought in stock from Dubai and they lost the businesses. And then I met people who had lost lives. And bringing these together after August 8th, because in August 8th, you remember, the Nane Nane protest was the last public action we had for occupying State House. And it was very well mobilized. The country was still in the protesting mood. We still had the capability. Of course, there was very, very heavy police presence. There was very, very heavy police restriction and violence. But if we truly believed in the cause, we should have showed up. And I find myself outlining very clearly what the journey to the New Republic, because we called it the New Republic. And I remember on 7th, we activated from very different publics. We went to Bungela Mwananchi and we said this is what we were trying to do, and we galvanized several publics. And I remember we even went to KBC the previous day to because it's a national broadcaster, and we said that we will announce it here once the state falls. And we had somebody who would be deployed to speak to the international media. I remember I was protesting with a pin that had the coat of arms. And this was because we said if power fell, we needed to be ready to pick it up. One, but two, that it would not fall on the wrong hands. So I said, I'm not going to protest in jeans, for example, and then they despise me. And I will say that if power fell, I would squarely be on the table. So we were strategic around the broadcasting instruments. And of course, that happens, and there was several attempts on my life on that day, and it rolls over. And then very quickly, the politics of the country changes. So with the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua, that's when, because that weekend I also got cancelled. I got quite a bit of heat on that weekend, and then I met Right Honorable Raila Odinga.
Before we go to Raila Odinga, because
right.
that's a different phase,
Yeah.
do you believe what you're protesting for back then has been done?
No.
And people would question then, if that has not been done, what makes you become part of a system that has killed people? Because you know Gen Zs were killed. Up to date, we have around 80 people who still don't know their whereabouts. So how comfortable can you be as someone whose life was targeted, as someone who spoke to every media house, as someone who's fighting for things, and yet without any achievement of these things, then you jump ship?
I have not jumped ship. I've just changed tact. It's a retreat, re-strategizing, refocusing so that we can relaunch. And I say this because a lot of the people, and I'll speak very honestly, a lot of the people who talk about these Gen Z deaths, they just think of them as numbers. They don't know where those families live. They do not know what communities these people were part of. I've marched with people, and it would be diabolical of me to lead people to a protest without knowing what exactly we're going to achieve. Kasmuel, in my suit as we speak right now, I might have a bit of insulation because I have made friends with some important people in the country and very influential people. But that young person from Mathare, when I tell Ndach to give me our comrades from Mathare, when I tell Voke to give us guys from Islando, when I talk to Obilo to give us guys from their side, these are guys who can be targeted. These are guys who are going to die. The protests, we lost lives to rogue police. And I still can't reconcile the fact that people still believe that is the solution. And they are not, so we're protesting without properly articulating what we want. The people who want people to go for protests are not showing up for protests themselves. So, and two, just to answer the question on joining a system, I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong. I am not in the executive because if we had a problem with the executive, we had the problems with the arms of government. That's why people occupy the judiciary and people occupy the legislature and the executive. That's why I think was a missing link, and people are saying now they want to occupy State House. I'm in neither. I'm simply in a political party. And I said the way how fast things were moving politically in our country, where it suddenly moved from certain shuffles to now we have an impeachment looming, and then just the political class found a way to politicize the whole issue. I said, we want to influence decisions happening in this country, and now we sort of have access. I have access to leaders who I previously could not access. These are things which now, and for me, I take this very personally because I marched with real human beings. And to my comrades in Mathare right now, for example, they're enjoying a fair share of peace. And now, previously, when we were on the streets, when we were being targeted, they would be victimized by police however much, and I couldn't do anything about it. Right now, we could go to forums and specifically say that there are people who are still being profiled by the police, and this needs to stop. And we can say this to the highest authority. We can say this to the head of the National Intelligence Service. We can say it to the head of the military. We can say it to the Inspector General. So for me, it's just a change of tact. And as I've always opined, one life is already one too many. Leading people to a protest right now, especially the people who are clamoring and saying that we need to go to protests, who are not in the country, who never show up for protests, all they know how to do is just bicker on social media, that you want me now, and this is the thing which a lot of the social media heads are very agitated about. I cannot take revolutionary instructions from people who are extortionists. People who built their brands by blackmailing big companies. You cannot tell me that now these are the saviors. I just simply do not subscribe to it. The people who sold us this government are the people who are telling us that this government is bad.
But they changed their mind. Only fools.
That's a lie.
But they say only a fool does not change their mind. True or false?
It's very true.
So maybe they have seen the light. I am not justifying, I'm just looking at it.
I don't disagree. Going by what you've said, only a fool does not change their mind. I'd be a fool not to change my mind in the face of new information. I'd be a fool not to change my mind when we found peaceful ways for young people to coexist with the state.
You know, people would ask,
Right.
okay, I was trying not to ask, but I'll ask it. What is this new information that you can share?
Again, I think now we're so far at the water. There are so many people who made money out of these protests. I'm not silly when I say that all the frontliners need to be audited. And now you can see the crack within that system because they've started exposing each other. Even the chief extortionist is now pretending that they care about justice.
So did you make money during the protests?
I maintain that I didn't. That's why I keep on saying all of us should be audited. None of those frontliners say are willing to be audited. But I'm willing. I say that no, let's all submit information for our companies, let's submit our personal accounts, and let's explain where funds came from.
But you know, money in the political space changes hands in cash. So chances are it will be very hard to trace if Kasmuel
No. There's very specific money that's what I keep on saying. Auditors. If we're saying we're people of integrity, audit all the frontliners.
Okay.
I have people I know people who cooled money that they said that was meant for mobilization. They said that, we're going to mobilize people for a protest, and then they just ate the money. I have people who set me up for, they knew that they set me up with politicians. At the time, I was not free to interact. I was very radical at the time, and I said I would not interact with any politicians. And there's a place which we used to meet, this club, and these people are deliberately late as a setup. It's frontliners, and that's why I was like, I'm not gonna be a part of this. I'll give you another example. Right now, there are people who are chanting names for various candidates to be president, and I was a spokesperson of the National Coordinating Committee of People's Assemblies. So what this did during protests, we said we need to galvanize and bring the progressive voices together under one umbrella so that we can, one, better take care of each other's interests, but also advance the needs of the people from one collective. And even how I became the spokesperson was, I told them, listen, I'm not here for the titles. I don't care for something. I just need the title I will use when I go to television, one. But two, when I'm going to negotiate, I will say that, listen, I have to go back and refer to a collective. That collective ended up dying because it was being ruled by a tyrant. And
you guys already created tyrants.
Yeah, no, let me tell you, and this is the thing which I kept on saying, that the left is equally as corrupt as the right. These people who are calling themselves progressive forces, they're just, a lot of them are in business. And when I said it, people looked at me like a madman, and they said, oh, he's been paid by the government. But now, when they're extortionists and their propagandists start saying those things, they're lauded as heroes. So back to this story. And we used to organize in a popular senator's office. There was a total of close to 100 meetings. And one night, I remember that night clearly because it was the night before, Gachagwa's impeachment. We used to organize, I thought I wouldn't say names, we used to organize in Senator Omtata's office. And I truly believed that Senator Omtata deserved a shot at the big seat. And I remember sitting down with a lot of these activists. Some of them are poets, some of them are into fitness, some of them are collecting money for various things during the protests. So if you've been keeping track of the protests, the names are coming to your mind. Some of them are leading parties in the left, some of them are leading feminist voices.
So those are part of your system.
Yeah, they were part. Yes. They were part of that. And I remember we were sitting in Senator Omtata's office this night. I remember it was a Thursday night. And I asked them, in all honesty, who do you think is going to be president in 2027? And they said, if things go the way they're going, it's going to be Ruto. And I said, I'd be damned to think I'm sitting with you guys. Haven't we been saying that we want an honest person in office? We want a person of integrity in office. Like we've spent the past however many months saying that Ruto must go. And when we retreat into like our most private, and remember, these are frontliners. I'm not sitting with random people. I'm sitting with the people. All the faces you saw emerge were on that table. And I remember being very mad and saying, no, this is not going to happen. And saying that, and of course, there were also some people who had tried to vie for presidency, to vie for some seats within. And I said, Senator lacks the charisma, for example. And he walked in on us discussing the whole thing. And I told him, hey, Senator, we were gossiping you just now. And we were saying this, and that, and these are the things. And I remember telling him, I'm going to be your wild card. I'm going to be the guy who, if you want to stop, the only way you can stop him is if you call Senator Omtata. Because I was like, yeah, I need to prove to the people that I actually believe in this man. And of course, we went for dinner and we spoke about politics. And then the next morning, there's the impeachment thing. But these are people who on their profiles, they keep on saying, oh, Ruto must go. They keep on saying this government is bad. This government is horrible. But they do not believe in their own candidate. Of course, it became horrendous. And that's the night I remember there's a Shah had just come out. And the senator had done a whole thing. It was a huge booklet. And I told him, no, now I'll take over your social media because you need to be in charge of the people. And I recorded a video, I posted it on mine and posted it on his. And of course, after that, we had a falling out, not necessarily with the senator, but with the people around him.
But still, we will lead senator to. He's not here for a right of.
Yeah, I mean, no. I'm not. Remember, I'm not casting aspersions on the senator. This one is not. I'm just saying we used to organize in his office. Okay. This is something that he has also made public. We've done, and again, we've done pressers at the office. So I was just giving you context of why I changed my tune, because a lot of these people just want to replace the oppressor. They don't necessarily want to change. They just want to replace the oppressor. And we're using other human beings as currency. So what I said is, I'm withdrawing all the mobilization I could do, all the rallying up of young people. I will not lend it. That's why I even said there's a protest that was recently organized that had all of 6 people, you being the 7th, and maybe the crew. But I said I would not allow any of my people to go for that thing because then it's just a game. And I speak for my constituency. I do not know about other people. But for us, we've decided, no, let's breathe. We've lost way too many people. Way too many people from the ghettos die. Way too many people from our population die. So
who are these your constituents? Because you're not an MP.
Oh, yeah. I have the people I was marching with, my comrades. I have Ndach from Mathare, who we rally. If we want to rally our people, go through Ndach. I have Voke from Islando. I have Obelo. I have a whole host. Those are just but a few.
How do you maintain them?
In what way?
I mean, I wouldn't be showing up. I need transport.
I need transport.
I need food.
I need transport. I need food. I need fuel to come to this show. But here I am. How do you maintain?
No, I know DM. So I know, of course, being a youth leader, it's a party that has systems that pay the people. It has officials who are paid. So it's not secret from that as perspective.
No. I think that's the thing which you're getting wrong. I do not come to this show because I'm paid to come to this show. Yeah.
This, of course, is your personal. Yes.
Yes, and there's value. I see value in the work that your show does, and you see value in the work that I do. It's the same. It's the same relationship. Our relationships are not transactional. There's a whole period of time I did not have work. These people they stuck with me. There's times I even go for meetings not with a cent. There's times I go there, man, I'm like, oh, I say, leo niko na 10K fulani, tukuleni 10K. Yeah. So these are my friends. I do not lord over them. These are my friends. And it's a thing about friendship that a lot of people sort of miss out on. When you add friendship to ideology, it becomes unbreakable.
True.
Yeah.
True. Do you think you're a traitor as some people view you to be?
I don't think so. It's, again, because we're in the land of freedom of speech, the people I walked out on. And remember at that time when these narratives are coming out, the people are looking to certain social media influential voices for opinion shaping. Those are the people who are butthurt. They're the people who are mad. And some of them are consistently bickering, but to each their own. Because as long as my comrades still know where my heart and my mind is, I don't care for what some lady will say about me on Twitter. And again, just to see, I think I love the fact that I've lived long enough to see it come full circle. And now the things I was saying, like, oh man, these people were just kulaying money for the sake of kulaying money. Now the public is realizing it for themselves. Those are the people I betrayed. Of course, there are people who I walked out on, and these are very clear categories of people, and I've said it. I walked out on the people who want to use the young people from the informal settlements as bargaining currency. I walked out on people who want to write grants for their companies and give T-shirts to the protesters and say that we have done mass action. I walked out on people who wanted me to consistently stay in front of a screen and push an agenda, which I didn't know to what end. There's people I walked out on. There's people I betrayed. I cannot call myself a saint, but the people who are most butthurt are the people who consistently have used this movement for selfish gains. I mean, right now we're still doing Youth for Youth. It's the biggest youth movement in the country.
Okay.
Everyone's trying to court it. Everyone's trying to own it. But we're just like, oh no, guys, we bury our heads in the sand and we keep on with the work.
But now that you've said you don't really care about what some people say because maybe they're not up to the task, don't you think that then that makes you part of the politicians' bandwagon, which people have been against about politicians dismissing what the citizens want? I mean, I'm not putting you at a place of like an MP or governor, but if these are the things that you go through now, what about then when we make you an MP? I mean, if you're elected, won't you dismiss?
First, I'm a politician. I need to be very clear about that. I think I did not have the guts to say it in September, but right now I actually am an aspiring politician. I still have not figured out the constituency, but I'm learning politics, and again, I get the privilege to learn it from the best of the best in the country. But two, on your videos, there are dislikes. What do you do? Do you care about them?
If they're genuine concerns.
No,
like
the dislike matter.
If they type critique that is, I need to change something, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And there's people who've typed, if people come at me with genuine critique, I absolutely care. But there are people, for example, part of the people who, and I say this that I do not care about, is one activist who I think is going to be the downfall of a presidential candidate. And she's very irresponsible with her words and her deeds. And such a person claiming that, one, they are advocates of peace and they're advocates of justice and equality, is a person who's consistently going out of their way to make life-threatening remarks to me, telling me that, oh, they would beat me up, they would shave me up, or body shame me. You see, that's a person I can never take seriously. Regardless of what it is that they're doing, I'm just like, yeah, your opinion is crass. It's like if I saw some random publication or if I see someone trolling me on Twitter, I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of funny. But that's what I say, but I do not care, is I do not take that seriously. But if I get a call from my comrades telling me that, tumeshikwa na ni vibaya, I'll leave this interview mid-air. If I get a call that we have action or there's an injustice happening to one of my comrades, I'll drop whatever it is that I'm doing and go there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. The transition, how do you meet Raila Odinga and how do you become the one person out of the many young people that were speaking that he pulls just under his arm?
Okay. I think I would take this chance to gloat a little, but I have to be very honest that I'm not the only person that emerged. There are very many influential young voices that have come out of this protest, and the country knows them.
Yeah.
But I made a very deliberate decision. So there's a time at the height of our protests that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga made a statement. He put out a statement. Was it with regards to our fallen comrades or whatever? And then I put out a reply. And some people from his team reached out and they said, oh, this, and that. They told me there's no need for you to pick a fight with us because we could figure out ways of working together. Then I was just like, oh yeah, if anything, I don't need to pick up a fight with Honorable Raila Odinga. He's not my problem. He's not the country's problem. And there had been people who had consistently been trying to take me to him. And I politely, some of them, my very close friends who are also well connected to his team. And I consistently declined. But the day I decided to go and meet him, I did it out of conviction. I did it and said, okay, I've chosen a path and this is the path I will go with. It was specifically around the impeachment of Gachagua. That was a pivotal moment for me because that's the time when now I get involved publicly with the political class. And everyone knows how it went. But in a nutshell, there was I learned very many lessons on that day. But it was supposed to first be in KICC, and then it was moved to Bomas, and then there was skirmishes in Bomas. And then I came in and figured out a way of I talked to the people, had a touch and feel. Of course, I also had some rough-ups within Bomas, but then I eventually ended up speaking. And after that, my phone rang incessantly. My messages were blowing up. I had, I think, 12,000 on, the other phone was absolutely crazy. And again, because I met very many political players, I asked myself, what party? Because there was no getting out of here as a non-politician. I walked in as a civilian, but I walked back out as a politician. So I asked myself, what party best aligned with the values that I believe in? And for me, that was the Orange Democratic Movement. And there were very many people who were scrambling to take me to him. But I found a humble way of going to His Excellency, and I met him at his office at Capitol Hill. And we had a very fruitful discussion for all of maybe 2 hours. We shared lunch. And then he said, welcome home in the morning. He invited us for breakfast. I think it was on Tuesday, because we met him on Monday, and then he invited us on Tuesday. And now the journey, which I still am a part of, started of asking, so what is politics like, before we even get to what our revolution was like. Because he also gave me quite a bit of context, that I did not have. Context of our protests that I did not have. And so after that, it's been a beautiful journey of mentorship and just seeing political action at the front seat.
What lessons would you say? It's been like 4-5 months.
Yes.
What are the key lessons you'd say you've taken from Raila Odinga and basically just party politics?
So I don't even think we've gotten that far, because remember, it's if you meet an interesting person, just your average person on the streets, they are very interesting, and 4 or 5 months is not enough to get anything out of them. But now we're talking about meeting a person who's had an illustrious career in politics, spanning 5.5 decades. It's not a joke, but he is very intentional about his grassroots. He will call someone at an obscure word, and he knows them. And the thing about Raila is, when you sit with him, it feels as though the world revolves around you. He's a very humble man. You expect him to be a very towering figure, very commanding. He's very deferent. He's very chill. And he's such a storyteller. But the first big thing is you have to build, and there's no escape from this. You have to build a grassroots network. That was one that came out very clearly, because he still calls people at the word level. He still calls people, he still meets them. He takes meetings, and sometimes you would find there's CEOs or high government officials waiting in his office, and there's someone who's come from some random word could be in Kilifi or whatever, or Turkana. He's like, no, I want to see those people. So build a heavy grassroots network. But two, you have to be knowledgeable. He reads a lot. The first gift he gave me were a series of books. I asked him questions. Of course, he tells you stories. But he was like, no, you need to read this book by my father. You need to read this other book by this other person. He's very big on books. And again, as we all know, the first duty of a revolutionary is to study. So he's very, very keen on study. But three, the other thing which he taught me is money will follow ideas. Because when I went to him, and I've been sparring and asking him also, how do I do this? I want to do this thing, but I do not have the money. 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 And he stays silent, and sometimes he just laughs and he said, the money will follow the ideas. And every time I've set out, for example, to organize a meeting with young people, and we got to like a thing. Like recently I met, we had a meeting of about 200 youth. That was last week on Tuesday. And I just went and said, man, I didn't have a dime. But it happened. And out of that, we found ways which we can fundraise for our next meetings or our next conventions. But also with regards to party politics, he's by and large a fair man. That there's the public perception that we have that this is how he behaves, this is who he is. But in the organization of a party is very meticulous to understand the inner workings of his party. So he does not delegate all of it. He does not meddle. He does not come and say, okay, this is what you need to do. But he's always in touch with party, and he's very respectful of party organs. This I saw after we came from Addis. There was a Central Management Committee meeting in Kisumu. And I mean, Baba is Baba. But, and you expect, because we all know he's the party leader of ODM and those kinds of things, when people are sitting in terms of party organs, he should sit at the head of the table. But he didn't. It was Professor Nyong'o who sat at the head of the table because he was the party leader. And so he respects processes and he lets processes run the course. But you also have to be in touch with your people.
Groundwork.
Like, if there's one thing Baba does, I could tell you, one, he's one of the most eloquent people I've ever met. He's very fluent in all the languages he speaks. He's very fluent in the Luo. He will carry a crowd in English the same way he would carry a crowd in the Luo. Same way he would carry a crowd in Swahili. Same way he would carry in these ones, he'd carry it in German. So it's work that he's put in. I remember he was hosting an iftar, and he sounds like the most seasoned Muslim I've ever seen. And he goes ahead and quotes the Quran and shares a few hadith, and like, very contextual. But he's also one with the people. The other thing and this was not communicated directly, he does not seek to show that he is better. And this is the thing which I think I was grappling with. As a young person, you want to outshine everyone else. But if you met Baba in a crowd, you wouldn't know he's there. He dresses down, he wears a hat, he's very unassuming within a crowd. And that's the other thing which I'm just recently getting to learn, is that it's not that I'm better than the people I'm interacting with. It's just that I have to figure out ways of, if I truly care about these people, what is our point of commonality? But of course, also enjoy life. He really enjoys his football. He has a very doting relationship with his wife and with his children. Is very intentional about it, about family, as he is about work, but also physical fitness. He has a very clear routine. He wakes up at 5, does his 5 kilometers and does his medicals and those kinds of things, eats at very specific times, has a very well thought out routine, but also seeing the amount of work it takes, because I did not have a concept of what that looked like. Seeing that, like, because there's a time, of course, I've spent a couple of days, but there's a time we spent a particular day in Nairobi. He was still vying to be the AUC chair. And we spent from the morning, and he takes numerous meetings from office A. He goes to office B, takes numerous meetings. Then he passes by a media station, does a thing, runs particular errands, then comes back. This is like 6:30, 7. And he sits down at his AUC office, meets people who've come to hound him there, then goes ahead and takes care of his campaign. By the time we were leaving each other, it was like 11 p.m. and he was still going for another meeting, and I was beat for the day.
You're done.
I mean, I was done.
Interesting lessons.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on, but like the things which I particularly come to mind,
that's that.
Yeah.
Okay. ODM is I think one of the oldest, maybe even the oldest party currently in Kenya.
Right.
And with very good structures.
Right.
However, amidst all that, also the party that has the most hooligans across the country.
Right.
Because that one we've seen, it's not even debatable. It's something that's in the open. When you look at that side of politics, is that something that you people sit at the helm and discuss? Or how do you go about that? And do you plan to build a sort of the same? Like they say everyone has their hooligans for political survival.
Show me a politician that does not have a structure that involves every personality, and I'll show you a politician whose who has no influence.
Past?
Past and present.
Mwai Kibaki.
Did not have goons.
Hooligans, no. No.
He had a whole killer squad.
No.
Killers are worse than hooligans. And remember, Mwai Kibaki was MP for 40 years. The way Kenyan politics is ordered, you do not become MPs. Just say we did not know or we did not care about the hooligans in, was it Muranga?
No, it's Nyeri.
Oh, Nyeri, sorry. I'm so sorry about
Othaya,
But Odaya, yes, that's it. Oh man, Muranga is because of the good lady. But you might not have hooligans, because the way I see it is ODM has very passionate supporters. And they have people who are willing to defend. What's the difference between ODM supporters and supporters of any football club? A football club is not trying to capture political power. But ODM supporters have borne the brunt of theft. They've borne the brunt of death. They've borne the brunt of consistent subjugation, to the point where, I mean, you can play all your politics that you want, but don't come and try to infiltrate us, or don't come and try to demean us, or don't come and try to interfere with the work that we are doing. Because these people that you're calling hooligans, they live amongst people. They would have been reported as troublemakers within their communities. But when it comes to political parties, and this is capturing of political power, you even saw it when we were saying that we were partyless, leaderless, tribeless, like we were not joking about going to the streets. And for us, for the party, that has consistently been our thing. We've always gone to the streets. The party has always given its people. So of course we will be more passionate than any other party, because all these other parties have sort of made it to capture political power. All these other parties enjoy periods of rest. All these other parties have sort of relegated ODM into the opposition. And therefore, once those, if anyone comes to interfere with party processes, of course they're going to face the music. Yeah, and this is not to justify political violence at all, but I'm just saying, because this is not a church, and even churches have all sorts of people.
Wow, what an example.
Yeah, we like, things move very differently, and especially
it's politics.
Yes, especially with the things that we have at stake. You cannot, for example, mess with our founding father. If you put his life in harm's way, then we cannot, because he bears the vision. He's a vision bearer in the ideology. I don't know why people understand this of other companies and they celebrate their CEOs, while companies are extractive. You find CEOs making 10,000 times what the lowest paid member is making. But that's not problematic. But when people are willing to viciously defend the person who bears our vision, that's seen as a problem.
I think the problem is just violence. Nobody has a problem. I mean, Raila has been very instrumental in this country. You can't erase that history. But I think at the moment, of course, people have a problem with the fact that he joined a system that they were religiously and viciously fighting. So having him at that position makes some people feel like we supported this man, we loved him, we died for him, and then sort of he makes a U-turn on us.
Oh no, I think that's flawed. This system.
I actually feel like they have a right to feel, because you see, the same way you're a fan of Raila Odinga, it's the same way someone else is a fan, but that fan feels aggrieved because they sort of had a difference in ideology, which...
I don't think it's a difference in ideology, because if it were a difference in ideology, we would not see him talk about abductions. These are things he said to the president's face. We will not see him talk about the deteriorating health system of healthcare. We would not hear him talk about the new funding model. We would not hear him talk about better policing. We would not hear him talk about infrastructure. We would not hear him talk about unemployment. If he had gone against the things he believes in, then I would say that he would have differed. This is just a difference in approach.
Do you think him talking while in the system will actually lead us to fixing the mess?
So one, he is not in the system. And this is the thing, again, I think because he took Nusumkate with Kibaki, anytime people see Raila Odinga working with a government, they think it's the same arrangement. He cannot currently constitute a cabinet meeting. He cannot currently gazette any changes. Of course, he can say that tomorrow is a holiday. It's going to be a holiday because Rao is Rao. But he does not have the instruments of power. But even if you think about the most recent memorandum of understanding, it was 10 points that need to be achieved for them to find a way of working together as UDA and ODM. They have not merged. This is not the same as what Musalia and President Ruto did. It's very different. But of course, we oversimplify the situation by saying that he is in government. To me, government is actually having the power to say that I want this road done, and it can be done. Because right now, all we can fault him for is for saying that he will not lead protests against Ruto, which he has not said, for him just saying, let's just have a period of ease and peace, while he has offered himself up for leadership very many times, and he has been consistently rejected at the ballot by the people. This government did not institute itself. It was just 2 years ago and 1 year ago when 2 years ago when people were telling us he'll get over it and whatnot. And I don't think it is fair to lay all this blame to Raila Odinga. If we are saying that we truly are the change, it's the same way I empathize with the people who try to blame it on me, but I'm like, yeah, so if truly you stood for something, one person going to ODM should not have...
Raila is not one.
No, I'm saying me. Oh. I'm saying me. I'm not even talking about Raila. Right now, I'm talking about me. Because people are
But you're not one person, Kasmuel. You just spoke about your people in Mathare. So already you
That's what I'm saying.
Influence.
That's what I'm saying. People were saying I was nobody and those kinds of things. And right now, even in the line of questioning, you were asking, are you a traitor, as people say? And I'm like, there have been very many people who've joined political parties and they've switched sides. But when it comes to mine, it's a bit more passionate. So I was wondering, if truly you believe in something, you should be able to carry that belief. Because I did not go with your mouth. I did not go with any of your resources. I did not go with the media and those kinds of things. It's the same thing which I keep on saying, that if we cannot, you see the way we usually say in relationships that I tell young men, do not be a husband on a boyfriend budget. You can't expect champagne on a mango juice budget. Yeah. You cannot expect presidential duties of Right Honorable Raila Odinga without giving him presidential powers.
Okay, I think we will have Raila Odinga on this show soon.
Hopefully, he's a very busy man. I can't promise
he's busy,
that.
But I know he will come because we have a lot to speak. But now, switching gears from Raila Odinga, I mean, it's a man we respect so much as a nation.
Yes.
Do you feel as young people, because now the young people have started fighting each other, yet the goal was to make change for a better country.
Yes.
Did the young people lose the script along the way? And what led to that?
I don't think the young people lost the script along the way. I think there are a few greedy individuals who expected to be the leaders of the young people who are desperately trying to shape a narrative. They feel like they did not cash out in time. And that's why you see them say, strive to go for daily protests and whatnot, and they never show up. Or some of them who've been considered leading voices in the social media spaces can call for action and nothing happens. The young people are not necessarily fighting each other. There's people who are picking fights with other people, but we have to call corruption out on all cases. It cannot be that I will be demonized for joining the largest pro-people party, but then we will not demonize other people for joining the exact same political class. And the young people are not necessarily fighting each other. There are a few individuals who are mouthpieces on the social media spaces whose posts sort of get taken up by the algorithm and distributed further, because the young people all agree that we want jobs for ourselves. We want proper healthcare. The ones who are in university say that they want to afford a decent education. We want to have a meal at the end of the day, a roof over our head, proper sanitation. If these things are availed, nobody's going to go to the streets. And that's why, for example, with me and my constituency, I tell them, did we or did we not fight? Did we or did we not prove ourselves? Did we not show our worth in the streets in 2024? We did. Can we do it again? Of course. Do we need to do it now? Probably not. We can sit in peace and sort of figure out how we can change and build an arsenal and heal from the people we've lost. We are also dealing with a lot of loss, even within my constituencies. I've lost people to suicide. I've lost people to accidents. And these are people I have to deal with. I do not have the money or the infrastructure So I cannot consistently put these people in a state of agitation just because there's a person who will put out a poster and not show up. They'll put out a poster, and if I do not reshare it or if I do not echo it, it seems as though I'm not pulling. It's just let everybody build their grassroots networks. Let everybody, as long as we're championing for all these things, as long as we're championing for the war on graft, we are championing for good governance, accountability in governance, meaningful inclusion of the youth in public service and public life, employment opportunities for the youth, education, for water, for sanitation. As long as you're championing for these things, you do it. I'm pretty sure we're going to meet at the top.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you feel like Kenyans have now become radicalized because now every time something is spoken, Kenyans have lost trust in the presidency, unfortunately. But do you feel like this has made people to become more radicalized? And then how do we reverse this? Or then if we're pushing it forward, how do we make it more viable?
I think it's a good thing for a population to be radicalized, especially the African population, not necessarily the Kenyan population. It could also just be the African population, where we're waking up to certain things. We are going through all sorts of information with a fine-toothed comb, where you'll find somebody no longer saying that as long as, for example, it used to be as long as Raila has read it, then it's gospel truth. Of course, to certain degrees of access, that's still true, but now you find a lot of people still scrutinizing things for themselves. I don't think that this, the sentiment that is currently in the air needs to be changed or done away with. I just think it could be harnessed. We have a population that is interested in good governance.
Yes.
We have a population that's interested in the best version of a president who will want the best for our country. I don't think this is a population that needs to be fought. This is a population that needs to be wooed. And if a person who has enough political clout, who has enough Article 6 qualifications, who has the metal, shows up, this would be the time to change the country. But then it cannot be individual after individual. It has to be ideology for ideology. The only reason William Ruto, for example, won is he presented an ideology, the better agenda. It's like, we want to transform things from the bottom coming up. So we want to see what's the counter ideology, who has the better idea, who can deliver better for the Kenyans. So I don't think this is a thing which needs to be fought or to be dealt with, or that there's something that could happen and it would go. It's at the point where the Kenyan waters have broken and the baby has been birthed. That cannot be prevented. The cries of the baby cannot or ought not to be silenced. If anything, they are healthy. But there's also a segment of the population that now is taking advantage and is spreading mis and disinformation. And those, I believe those should be dealt with the full force of the law.
Do you believe in democracy, especially looking at the Kenyan space politically?
I do. And I think democracy is what allows us to be here. Our neighboring countries, which sometimes we praise, have dictators. And for the first 30 minutes, it's fun. For the next 30 minutes, you realize that nobody wants to live under our dictatorship. So for me, I'm very big on the preservation of our democracy, of a democratic space. The enhancement of positive societal values, the proper placement of youth, especially even from informal sectors, because a lot of the times we limit these conversations to very elitist spaces. We have these conversations targeting the middle class or the upper middle class. I want to showcase my eloquence to university students or to the learned population. But in a country whose median age is 19, we ought to find ways to connect with all strata of society. And that's why I'm very big on the youth from the informal settlements. It's doable, but we also, in the preservation of our democracy, we have to, one, provide room for dissenting voices, two, remember that this democracy that we're fighting for will serve everybody. So if you have a problem, for example, with William Ruto, and you're a Democrat, you believe that you want to change the country for better, you need to understand that this better republic will be able to accommodate him. That's the thing which a lot of people do not want to admit. And that's why I keep on saying that most people are not necessarily interested in change. They just want to replace whoever they think is their oppressor. They just want the trappings of power. I still maintain that it is important that we are a democratic country, that we maintain our democratic space. It won't be without its challenges, but it is most rewarding for us locally and even globally as part of the League of Nations.
Great.
Yeah.
You've mentioned that, of course, you want to run for MP.
Not MP necessarily.
Okay.
I want to run for office. Yes.
For office.
Yes.
Assuming it's MP or governor or senator, whichever it is.
Yeah.
From that point of view, are you going to be another puppet in ODM? Or what are your beliefs that would be a game changer to this country overall, and of course to the party?
I'm going to be a loyal party member. As long as this party is pro-people, as long as it stands for its ideals, I'm going to be a loyal member of that party. Whether I'm called a puppet or not, I do not care. Because it's a party that prides itself in justice, in equality, in inclusion, in good governance. If you see it, even the reports from the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, the most well-organized party, but also the most compliant party. That's the word I was looking for. It's an organization I want to be a part of. As long as we are fighting for the cause of the people, as long as we are still talking about, because remember, there is a cancer that we need to rid our country of, the cancer of corruption, the cancer of bad governance, the cancer of lack of accountability in public office, the lack of meaningful inclusion of the youth in public life. Youth representation should be by the youth for the youth. Proper education. These are things which, the preservation of our democratic space, the inclusion of persons who are differently abled, having women side by side, not as affirmative action, but as equal members of standing. These are things which the Orange Democratic Movement believes in social justice, in fairness, in the dispensation of constitutional duties and mandates. I have no qualms about if I'm going to be a puppet, if I'm going to be called an ODM puppet for believing in these things, puppet is the least you would call me. I'll still be a part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who are your best African leaders at the moment, alive? Yeah, because if we go fast, I know there's several, but I want current.
Of course, Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Have had the immense privilege of meeting him and interacting with him as a leader. And I struggle.
Is it that bad in Africa?
I don't think it's that bad, but okay. But why am I also limiting myself to the people who are older? I think there are interesting voices that are coming up as well within our country and within our continental space. We have, So the thing which I'm struggling with is there's so many people even within the country, so many young voices which are very, very promising in terms of change and even within Africa. But I'm trying to, when people say that, they usually want a leader that they would know or resonate with.
Yeah.
So to be safe, I'm going to say Raila Odinga because I've met him and I've seen his illustrious career.
Out of Kenya?
Outside Kenya?
Yeah.
I would say Floyd Shivambu or Dr. Ndlozi.
Okay.
Both from South Africa.
Yeah.
And from the EFF and then now with the Umkhonto. But then there are also very interesting voices. Those are, of course, the more publicly known. The lesser publicly known individuals, there are many, and I hope that they're going to be known and acknowledged in their various spaces. But those are the voices. Those are the voices that when I look at, I say that here I see ways in which I could pursue change.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think digital activism is adding value to the political space, or is it just now morphing from the usual barazas we used to have where just people come spew things and move, or are we moving from that to issue-based, to towards good governance issues?
I think digital activism has revolutionized what politics is and what it's going to be, especially proof that we're well connected with regards to our internet and those kinds of things. It's still a ways, but it's on its way there. You cannot just stay in the classical political way of thinking that you could just rally people and give them 200 shillings. Now you have to prove your worth. You have to tell us what the idea truly is. So while it's still rather, even you have things like bullshit policing, which is the Kusalimiana strategy and those kinds of things, I believe these are things which now force you to think outside the box if you're going to be a political leader, all which I think are welcome in the strengthening of our democratic space, but also forces us to think. So we're getting into a new age. So for me, I think digital activism is headed the right direction. Of course, there are very many things that I do not agree with. I've been a target of some of those things that I say I disagree with, but I still think that we're in a very healthy place digitally.
How is ODM as a party? I mean, you're a young leader in ODM.
Yeah.
How does ODM utilize or plan to utilize the digital space for value for the party?
That's a very interesting question. Because we are at that cusp of it's a hybrid. Because we're very well connected grassroots, but that digital space was the old type thing where you just post photos and say this is what happened. That where's the engagement? And I'm seeing young voices. So that's what we're even trying to do at the Youth League, asking young voices to actually communicate what the party truly believes in, so that we're not just seen as a party that says usiguze Raila. Of course, usiguze Raila, but the party goes beyond usiguze Baba. So the reason I even said it's a very interesting question is that's part of what we are asking ourselves as the young people. What is this role that we're going to play in the digital superhighway that will allow us to place ourselves as the party of the present, but also as a party of the future? Yeah.
Interesting stuff. You need to think about it deeper.
Yes, I most definitely will.
Also, across Africa, we had coups in West Africa, and I think that sort of pushed the narrative when Gen Zs went out in Kenya being told we don't want to get to a coup. Personally, I don't think we were heading that direction. I think that was used as a threat to curtail the push more. But my question here goes to the president now of Burkina Faso. What is your take about Ibrahim Traore and the kind of leadership that he has given to that country?
I think he's doing a fairly good job. He's doing a fairly good is rather modest. He's doing a great job. I think he's strengthening manufacturing in his country. He's empowering his people. I'm seeing him make clear of what their interaction with Western powers. It's a great initiative he's doing as a leader, and I wish him the very best. I know he survived 19 coup assassination attempts, but I think he's doing a fairly good job.
Fantastic.
As a leader. There could be things which I would have as problems with just how he came in or how he does certain things, but by and large, he is doing a very, very good job for the land of the upright people.
Living for the end justifies the means.
Yeah,
in that scenario.
I mean, because you see, this is the thing. Yeah, this is the thing which I keep on saying, that we want to understand that the end justifies the means in everyone but ourselves. And so hopefully
people will understand your end justifies the means also.
Your words, not mine.
Well, from the last, say 1 year now, a period of 1 year, how would you say citizens have adapted to being active citizens rather than fence sitters, for that matter, or just observing? You, political class, do your thing, we sit and watch.
I think citizens have started to understand the importance of their vote and their voices. That it's not just a thing that elections just don't happen when you dip that paper in that ballot box. I've seen a lot of people have candid discussions around their leaders, have candid discussions around the issues that bedevil them. I've also seen an understanding of the class struggle where people don't just think because I'm a Luo or you're a Kale and you're in government, then that means everything is okay. There's been an awakening and a proper understanding that the poor Kikuyu has more in common with the poor Luo and the poor Kalenjin than they have with the rich Kikuyu. And not to even start a class war, but there's a a consciousness that people are starting to understand. People are starting to see extractive and exploitative practices. People are starting to stand up for themselves more. You've seen people actively prevent abduction attempts or illegal arrests, when previously it was just God for us all. People are, we're going back to, and it seems contradictory, while on the digital space it feels as though everyone's going back to solipsism or very individualism. Like at the community level, I'm seeing people mesh together. Like even the comrades I've been telling you, they're not necessarily from my tribe, but we've found that there are more things that unite us than do divide us. And I'm happy to see even more young leaders. You know, Kitambo, it used to be very difficult. You needed to be from a prominent family. You needed to be to have a very big function that you can organize and invite a politician so that you get your entry. But right now, as long as you know and you have something to say and you're passionate about it, you can have the entry because the people are going to propel you. That understanding of the people's sovereignty, the understanding of the people's power, it warms my heart to see more people awake and alive to that fact.
How would you say the Gen Z protests changed Kenya's political space and general atmosphere?
Our protests still remain I would say, the political event of the decade. After actually citizen-led, after the Constitution, our protest, June 25th was the height, because it changed how we view each other. It changed how we view political mobilization. For the longest time, the most influential politician in the country was Raila Odinga. He's the only person who would say, aye, and then tomorrow. But now it was organized from various spaces. It also showed that our population, the youthful population, is willing to stand up for their rights. They're more invested, because remember, they were accused of political apathy and being apolitical, but they decided that no, we will stand for our rights and we will be invested. We've taken accountability to a whole new level. You don't need to be in government for you to read the Auditor General's report. We translated the finance bill into various languages. We're working on, but did attempts to translate the Constitution and certain acts. We've found ways of having candid political discussions while both existing in the old and this new political order. And right now, even if you hear the political class as they speak, while previously the youth, all we were used for was the numbers and to provide security or goons, right now, whenever politicians want to make a move, they ask themselves, okay, what would the Gen Z think? What are these young people thinking? And that's a shift that will never go. And I'm proud of us for that.
True.
Yeah.
What do you think, or why do you think Kenyans, general citizens, basically have become insensitive to politicians and their pains? I mean, we've seen politicians who've lost children or even family members, and the reaction is more of a celebration from the people.
I think because you see how there's been a trend in misandry, where there's posts of people saying the way they hate men, and from women who say they hate men and they wish all these bad things would happen to men and whatnot. The way it's a direct response to what the patriarchy has done. But the thing that it doesn't do is it does not kill. It does not hurt. It only hurts the ego, and it hurts the feelings, however deeply. I think it's the same thing that's happening to the people. For far too long, they've felt shafted by the politicians. They felt neglected. Their futures have been pilfered and plundered. And they've never had a way of getting back. Once every 5 years is just not enough. Like, if this person manages a re-election, it means that they've gotten away scot-free. And now it's gotten to the point where the citizens are pushing back, and the only way they can punish is by withdrawing the empathy that they've always donated to the politicians. So that's what's happening. I think it's a very visceral reaction. It's a reality check. It's just telling the politicians and the political class that, hey, listen, for far too long you've toyed with our humanity. You've just used us as subjects, and now we're withdrawing that. So if you do not want to be in the straight and narrow, then go and suffer in the cold. Because if the politicians are pro-people, the people empathize with them. So the people have just said, we will choose the people who choose us.
So do these politicians actually understand the pain they've caused the people over years? Now that you're closer to politicians.
Again, to be honest, I've only met the political class for a very short time, and I intend to be a politician. And such a question would assume that I've understood the system for a long time, but also that I have been exposed to it for far too long. I can't speak for all of them, but I know there are some that are very deeply connected to the people. I know that there are some that are very invested in changing. But there are systemic problems that stem from us not getting the right foundation that still bedevil our country. That we did not get the right, we had the chance to change. After the colonialists left, we had the chance to get it right, but we did not get it right with our founding fathers. There are a series of deaths that happened that did not, or assassinations that happened that they don't need to happen. But then we also had another time to change it in 2002. But then we did not capitalize on that. We had another chance to change it in 2007. We did not. And so these people who have been a part of the system, I think, have grown a thick skin where they just look at the population as a data set. And that's what we're hoping that we can change as young upcoming leaders, that we can humanize politics again, that we can be humans once again. And that's why I keep on saying that more and very many young people need to join the politics, because if you join alone, you're going to be, it's more concentrated on this other side than it is on this other side.
True.
Yeah.
One of the key things that ails the young people is cancel culture, even as you call a lot of them to join. I mean, we've seen people who've stepped out, but then they are cancelled for one or the other reason. And the truth is that we will not get any angel from heaven to come and lead. How then do we deal with this cancel culture? And at what point then do we understand that the more we do cancel culture, the more we hurt more people, and the more our nation then doesn't grow?
I mean, cancel culture it's a horrible thing. But if you believe in the work that you're doing, all I usually tell people is bury your head in the sand, do the work, and the people are going to judge you by your actions. So if you do not have what it takes, then you can retreat. If this is the trend that we have seen, that there's cancel culture, why are you trying to change it? Adapt, be like water. Find a way of living within this. I'm telling you, this is a person who's been cancelled not less than 7 times in the past year. And cancelled at a national scale consistently. I'm coming out of another cancellation yesterday. Yeah, you have to keep your head if you especially hope to lead, if you hope to bring some change, and you truly believe in what it is that you're fighting for. Stick to it, because listen, Christ, who came on earth and fed 5,000 people, spoke to them without a microphone. They had mabaki which they went to sell. He healed the sick. He resurrected the dead. Betrayed by a kiss, sold for 30 pence, and hung on a tree. If he, the Immaculate Son of God, did not get what he did from humanity, what makes you think that you will come here and... He was cancelled. He was cancelled and stoned and hung on a tree. It's the same thing which they're saying they want to do after they take the Republic. But that it's a thing that I keep on saying that... you focus on whatever it is, that little good that you believe in. You fight for it to the end.
Great. So as a young person, you don't have to give up because of being cancelled once or twice.
No.
You just have to develop
a thick skin. Again, this is another thing which I've learned from Raila Odinga. This man is insulted consistently. He's on the dailies every day. You know him is not like me out is I'm being cancelled on social media platforms. You open the thing like this, it's a GO, what political, what. You don't see him like crying about it.
What tips did he give about
No, I just
developing
observed.
thick skin?
I just observed. I've just looked at how he does it. Yeah, sits, looks at a paper, he reads it, he laughs it off, and he continues with his meetings. So nowadays, I just said, man, I don't understand how you do it. I remember asking him. He said, yeah, he just laughs it off. I sit down and I'm looking for the grace to laugh it off. Because someone I know insults me, for example, on social media. I want to get back at them because I'm like, my clap back is going to be stronger than this nonsense that you've posted here. Yeah, but you just have to
Breathe.
Yeah, you breathe. You apply aloe vera over burnt area and you
And you move. I love that.
Yeah.
It's very important, by the way, with the advent of technology, it's inevitable.
Right.
All right. The US has a president, no longer new anyway.
Right.
President Trump.
Yeah.
What are your feelings about the kind of leadership that he gives to the US?
I mean, if it's working, it's working. The Americans overwhelmingly voted for him. And that's on that. Of course, some of the policy shifts that have happened call for us who were dependents, and especially who had budgeted for aid, got to a point where we were budgeting for aid, which is rather ludicrous. It forces us to rethink our policy positions. It forces us to look inward, and that's what I think is very good. As Professor Chirao Ali McOure had said, Pax Africana. We have to find African solutions for African people here. Again, I'm one of those people who sort of I wanted him to win because he was good for world peace. For far too long, the Democrats had not, whenever the Democrats were in power, we had very many wars and those kinds of things. But be it as it may, again, that was the voice of America. We could delve into it. And I think there's a political shift, even generational, that I could say that if you think about boomers coming all the way to us Zoomers and the alphas, there's a lot that could be unpacked in terms of our relationship with conservatives and liberal values and the economy that I cannot necessarily delve into. But I mean, if he's saying America for America, why can't we say Kenya for Kenya? And there could be ways which some of the interventions that the US participates in could have been better rolled out. But somebody had to rip the Band-Aid, and
it was Trump.
Yes, he has ripped the Band-Aid.
Do you think he's going to end the Russia-Ukraine war?
That war cannot be ended by external players. It can only be ended by the warring parties. And so we cannot look outside of President Putin or President Zelensky out to find ways out of that war. But I'm happy that the dollars that were being sent or the illegal firearms that were being sent have been sort of cut off. And I hope that war ends, because it's also a very delicate subject. I hope it ends in the near future. I wanted to say in our lifetime, but our lifetime is too wide. That it ends. And I don't think it is incumbent upon an external president. The only people who can decide that this war ends are President Putin and President Zelensky. Yeah. Great.
You said Raila Odinga loves to read.
Yes.
And maybe that is something you've also adopted since you're hanging out more with him, or so we presume. What book are you reading, if any, and what is your best book?
My best book is Frantz Fanon's. It's the Fanonian Black Skin, White Masks, or White Skin. And I also, and this is a thing which has really, really changed. I really enjoy Pio Gama Pinto's biography. And those two books, of course, they kind of really helped me get through. And now I've been reading stuff on the Mama Rebellion. Those are from last year. And then Kitambo, it used to be a lot of politics, not in the local sense. It used to be in these grand political world structure. When you talk about Fanon, it used to be the wretched of the earth.
Yeah.
You're thinking
global.
Yes, you're thinking global. You're thinking us black people. And then, of course, there was a feminist text from I used to read bell hooks a lot and whatnot. But then now when I've come here locally, I'm thinking, I've been reading these little obscure books like Jaramogi's A Time in India. Speeches by T.J. Mboya, of course. Again, Raila Odinga's Flame to Freedom, and also the abridged version by the late Professor Bethel Ogot. Because now I'm really, really trying to understand what's happening. But of course, currently I found myself having to read the Constitution The Constitution
That's
of Kenya.
the Bible.
It's a book I find myself consistently having to be abreast with and well versed with, because we keep on quoting it. We've romanticized this Constitution, but there's a difference between the law and the law in action. And for us to proper see this, we have to understand what the law actually says and stipulates. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
You went to Alliance.
I went to many schools. I went to Alliance and
No, I know it's one of them.
Yes.
You know, I mean,
Yes.
it would be
Miranda.
an injustice for
Yes.
me to host you and not say,
And Miranda
give you a
School.
chance
Yes.
that you went to Alliance.
Yeah.
And Miranda, of course.
Yes.
Miranda is amazing also in drama and music, right?
Absolutely.
My question
Yeah.
is, if you were to put the Kenyan political space into a movie, what movie would that be?
House of Cards. But of course, that's too obvious. That's
Yeah,
too obvious.
that's the
It's too obvious
political
because
space.
that's exactly what House of Cards is. But if you want to understand the things that are happening, look at that. Or also, the nonsense that's happening at the recruits shows you what the backstabbing. That's exactly how it is. A movie? Oh man, I don't watch a lot of movies, but it probably would just be around that. It would be around like it would be like I would take yes, it would, yes. Because if I think about if you want to understand, for example, judiciary, people want to think, oh, it's just Vioja Mahakamani. That's the true depiction of how the law happens here in our country. But yeah, I don't see how I could politicize it without I could categorize it into a movie that's not already a political movie. I mean, I would say, you'd say Teletubbies, but it's just for
Wow.
it's for laughs.
Really?
I mean, that's just for laughs. It's not a true answer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like young people understand that politics is interests? Now that you've already gotten
They
there?
do. I think they do. And the reason why they're disgruntled is they feel that their interests are not being met. And if their interests were met, they would be happy. Yeah. Nobody went on the streets when they felt their interests were being met.
Okay.
They do understand that politics is a game of interest.
Very interesting
Yeah.
answer there.
Yes.
Just like politics is interesting.
Right.
Okay. Previously, you were into music.
Uh-huh.
Are you still doing music, or have you now decided
Oh,
music
man,
out, politics?
It's taken a great hit, and I'm finding myself resistant to what I previously would do musically. And this is not because music is inherently a bad thing. It's because I want to protect it. And it's in the same realm as what my family or my lover is. This is a person, or these are things which I do not want to share with the public if I risk putting them in harm's way. So how music and the stage, the dynamics of me and the stage have really, really changed greatly, where you find young people, or just Kenyans in general, they want to come and chant on my stage and chant Ruto must go, and they will not do this in their offices. They sort of understand that they cannot do this in their churches. They do not do this in their school, teacher, parents, and student meetings.
That's what they have done.
I mean, but it's countable people. The middle class that wants to come and shout at the joints I play at, they don't do this. You don't hear them doing this at those international schools. They understand where their money is, where they invest their money, they do not mess up with. So just in a bid to protect it, I've kept it to myself, but I'm also having a struggle of contradictions just within myself with the music, where I found myself. I have a resistance to it, so I've not been able to play in a while. But yeah, hopefully somewhere down the line I'll come back to it.
Oh, you might get back on stage. It's a change of stage.
Yes, not necessarily the big stage, but I might come back to music itself. Yeah, because for me, the music is not about the stage. It could be to one person, could be to 1,000. Doesn't make a difference.
Who's your best Kenyan artist, and why, perhaps?
Ooh. Off the top of my head, I have a couple, but the one that stands out the most is Aaron Rimbui. He's a pianist, because he has an amazing life story, and he is a journey of overcoming odds. He suffered an accident that should have changed his life forever. He got burned in ways which he should not have been able to play the piano again. But right now he outplays almost all of us. He quite literally outplays all of us when he sits on a stage, and he has still this very fresh sound. So for me, he's one of the most resilient musicians. Of course, there's very many. You have your Jacob Asios, you have your McKinleys, you have my big band, the people I play with, you have your Kavuthas, you have your Lisa Odornoas, your Shitakwas. I don't know why I'm saying those names with an S as if they are others. I just need to say them properly. There are very many musicians, but like the ones who really stand out and they have their own. You have, for me, it's Aaron Rimbui, Jacob Asio, Kaima Mwiti, Makile Mutembi, Shitakwa Musoga, Lisa Odornoa, Kavutha Mwanzia Asio. You have Dan Mugoshi, you have Costa Ojwang.
A lot of live.
Yes. You have Costa Ojwang, who's also a very good brother of mine. You have Brian Sigu. You have... there's a lot.
It's a lot.
I could go on.
I love it though. That shows you support a lot of Kenyan arts space.
Absolutely.
And that's amazing to hear. Wow.
Yeah.
Football team that you support?
Oh man, Gor Mahia. Of course. But
cannot be Sofapaka.
No, for me it's Gor because it's very musical.
Oh yeah.
It has very elaborate traditions.
So
if I were not a Gor Mahia fan, I'd be an AFC fan.
Wow.
They have very elaborate traditions, and for me, the music draws me. But Shabana FC has an anthem. That anthem is such a banger. Yeah, I think musically, I'm like, if you're just talking like pure music, Shabana has some bangers.
Kabisa.
The jogi in Gor is beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah.
You spoke about you are trending.
Yeah.
And it's because people are arguing whether, I don't know, are you dating?
I am.
Went straight because they were arguing about that.
I mean, yeah, but this is the thing which I usually say. I will not, my lover is mine. And I will not put her in harm's way, just to prove a point to the public. So let the public speculate all it is that they want to speculate. But I believe that family is sacred, and I ought to treat them with that respect and that privacy. I do not have the luxury of exposing them that way, because these are the people who keep me grounded. Yeah, these are people who I will not expose to the world. So let people speculate.
They can keep on.
I
tried.
Let them do it.
Great.
Yeah.
As we come to the end, what is the Kenya that you want? What is this vision of the Kenya that you want?
It's a Kenya that all of us want. It's a very simple Kenya. It's a Kenya that we have food, we have clothes on our back, and we have a roof over our heads. But beyond the basic needs, it's a Kenya which we can get decent education and water, clean water, and proper sanitation. Going into like the governance side, it's a Kenya which we have proper utilization of our resources, both debt and local financing, where we have accountability in governance and systems of governance, where we have good governance which do not necessarily depend on personalities, that we can have people do their work as stipulated constitutionally, but also a Kenya that is secure. But remember, security is all these things that are bedeviled by corruption. So a Kenya that is free from corruption. If we can get this Kenya, and this is a very basic Kenya, because as we also talk about the liberation where there's equality and we all can find land that is arable, we can find opportunities for work here, not necessarily us. We do not want to be shipped abroad. We want a Kenya that works for us. These are steps which I might end up getting lost in pursuing all of them suddenly, and they feel as though right now they depend on personalities for them to be achievable. But if we offer ourselves up as young people who have the potential to lead the country, and we are willing to devote ourselves to the Constitution, but also to the human beings that we represent, to the communities that we come from, I think we will achieve this Kenya sooner rather than later.
Great, I love that.
Yes.
Kasmuel, in the next, of course, we have 2 years to the election.
Yeah.
So there's that in 2 years and after election. So probably, let's say in 3-4 years.
Yeah.
What's that life like for you?
I do not know, because there's a time, in 2024 March, my goal was to have 50,000 subscribers on TikTok. Look at me now.
Very nice goal.
Like that was it.
That.
That's all I wanted. I was just a small TikToker, but then look at where I'm at now. So, I mean, I could share with you the small dream is I hope that I will have, of course, settled and figure out, because right now it's still a bit rocky in terms of trying to figure out where to settle and establish a home. But hopefully I will have added to my education and will be doing stuff with regards to governance in the country. But also as a key political player, I hope that I will still be in the pipeline, either as a legislator or as an appointive position, either of those. But I'm very keen on legislation because I feel that's where the most change comes from in this country. So, I mean, man plans, God loves, or God blesses us abundantly. For my case, it has been nothing but abundant blessings. So I am not worried for the future. However, I am investing in myself in terms of study, in terms of network building, in terms of exercise and the preservation of my body and mind to ensure that whatever state I will find myself in those 4 to 5 years, that I will be ready, just as I was last year, for the opportunities that will come my way.
Opportunity.
Yes.
Always finds.
It favors preparation.
The preparation, yeah.
Yes.
When you're not with Raila Odinga,
Yeah.
you're not in Madare with your people,
Yeah.
you're not playing music now that you said that's on the side.
Yeah.
What do you do? Chilling?
Yes, of course. I write quite a bit, and that has taken a bit of a hit, but we have discussions with my friends, and we read poetry to each other and discuss all these lofty ideas. Or sometimes we sit down and have cookouts because I really, really enjoy cooking. I had stayed away from the gym for years, close to 2 years, and now I'm back. So I'm
Tell me Raila Odinga sent you back to the gym.
Oh, he really did, man. Because this time we were together in Kisumu. That's not too far. That's like maybe 3 weeks ago. And he hosted me in his house, and I slept there. And in the morning, he came and woke me up and told me, he was showing me his gym inside the house. And I was that's a day, because he was very, he did it the way a coach would do it. Yeah, he was just like, no, this is very important, and those kinds of things. And we had a whole discussion on health. And he was telling me these are the things you ought to do to protect your body. And as a politician, you would expect them to be careless, expect them to be drunk all the time and those kinds of things. But he was very keen and very categorical. He was like, if you want to be a leader, you have to lead yourself and master yourself first. Give me a whole thing on alcohol, on a whole conversation on lust and women and those kinds of things. And I was like, oh yeah, I think it's just the same thing that we usually say of ensuring that our bodies are sanctuaries. So I sit and converse, and I also really, really enjoy riding motorcycles. I'm a biker, so I'm always chasing sunsets. And I enjoy teaching. I teach young kids. We were always doing trivias and those kinds of things, but also teach them music and those kinds, volunteering, just the regular stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it, man.
But I hope he did not tell you to drop.
To drop what?
The two things you said, women and alcohol, totally.
Oh, no. I mean, like,
No.
so for me, so here's my argument about even, about, for example, alcohol. I've had a stint with alcohol. I was a whiskey guy and whiskey is to be had neat. But at this point, I need to be able to summon all my faculties at will. Like, I need to be able to call onto a particular memory and it needs to come. Or I need to be, for example, if I meet you, I cannot be heffing. Yeah,
of course.
Yeah. But you see, the thing about the slippery slope of how stressful this side is if that's your escape, you cannot be sober the entire time.
So what's your escape?
So that's what I'm finding. Like, I'm very big on community. And so I had to make very deliberate decisions to try and ensure that I am not finding myself down the alcoholic or smoking phase, because I also enjoyed a good cigar. So that was a thing which I was like, okay, fine, these are things which I can kick. They're not necessary. Again, it doesn't help. You don't sleep well. You fart a lot if you're a cigarette smoker, those kinds of things. Beyond the aesthetic, there's nothing in drugs. And so if you're well adjusted, it doesn't have to be either or. for women are beautiful, man, and
Yes, that's
and
true.
as you see, for us as Luo men, it hurts us. When you see, yes, you have yours, but when you see another woman who has a good character, it hurts you when she is alone and whatnot. But of course, I'm not trying to I'm justifying it. I am trying to justify it, and I'm saying that we deserve all the good things and good women in life. Because from where we come from, it's the alcohol, women, and fish. It's beautiful.
That's it.
And music,
rumba.
yes. So, but for me, I have to be very careful with my interactions, because one mistake could be fatal. And therefore, because I have a woman who's very instrumental in my life, who has all the attributes that I look for in a woman, and consistently is working on herself. So what is this that you are going to show me? You're not going to show me thighs that I have not seen. You're not going to show me breasts or an ass that I have not seen. Because a lot of people try and make it like, oh, you don't want this. And I'm like, no, these are things that could be procured, and I'm sorry to say it in such a crass manner, but it's when I was in campus, maybe that would have flown, but right now where I'm at, I cannot afford the mistake of just, for example, sleeping around or being drunk of you, and therefore, so I've decided just channel it on study and now building a body that's fit to endure whatever hardships these are.
Great.
Yeah.
Good lessons.
Yeah.
The pros and cons of being in your position at the moment.
The pros are you get to be personal friends with Raila Odinga. The cons are you get to be personal friends with Raila Odinga because everybody now thinks that you have a lot of money.
You don't.
And that I have enough to get by. And this has not changed. I've always had enough to sustain myself.
It's just been added. Just say the truth, Kasmuel.
I mean,
these
I'm
young people watching
adding.
you always want to be in that position.
No,
and it's good we also tell them
it's very
it comes
true.
with some money.
Let me tell you.
Not a lot. Some.
Let me tell you. It comes with a lot of money even.
Yes.
Yes.
I was just being decent.
The sport of being, for example, Raila Odinga's personal friend, you choose what you make of it, because it comes with immense networks. It comes with immense possibilities for money. It comes with people who are trying to meet him, who want to give you money so that you take them to him. At this point, I am not looking for money, because I was not coming in here desperate. I was not going into during the whole Maandamano time, I did not work. I was just cooling savings. And of course, I had friends who were just like, I've built a network of friends who are very interested in my well-being. And so for me, the notion that there's money, again, like I said, this is a thing which Baba told me very early, that the money is always going to follow the ideas. I've found myself, I do not care if I don't have money. Like if I don't have chums right now, that does not worry me. But if I find myself not knowing what are things I could do to impact, then I start getting worried, because I will always get money. Of course, there's a misunderstanding. I have to greatly cut back on my social life and my social appearances. So if I'm going to places which I know would be public, it becomes a bit expensive, because you have to go there with security. You have to go there so I would not necessarily walk into large gatherings as I used to. And I used to just go out and be crazy and those kinds of things. But then the pros also, it gives you time with yourself, it gives you time with your loved ones, it gives you time to understand and analyze the friends that you have. But also there's the jealousy of it, part of the cons, where there's people who are always trying to undercut you. I see my friends sometimes do think pieces. There's people who have my phone number. I'm like, but you have my phone number, you can call me. But then this exposes that. But it's learning. It's part of the journey. And I'm here for all of it. So I think it's just one big experiential thing that I get to go through, and I'm grateful for it, the good and the bad.
Such a privilege, you know.
Yeah.
You know how many people wish they would be in your position.
There's that, and the networks as well, because I'm also constantly also investing in myself and applying for things, and I've gotten some rejections, but I've also gotten some acceptances. And there's a particular opportunity that I'm very excited for. that's gonna go abroad sometime in June. So that's cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
All the best with that.
Asante. So I mean, this position of being close to Baba, again, is also very dangerous because I've seen a lot of young people, just over time, who've come into this space and wasted it. So there's that, you have to be cognizant of the fact that you're not the first, and there's people who've come before you who've abused or made good of the opportunity. So I'm consistently asking, how can I, because right now I'm very big on how can I help him preserve his legacy? How can I ensure that his history is not erased or rewritten, and those kinds of things? That's my contribution to him, as a way of saying thank you for the contribution he's made. And so I'm always asking, I'm always learning, I'm always listening, I'm always writing and reading, and hopefully that, the good that comes out of it is gonna be worth it.
They will, for sure.
Yes.
Your stars sort of have aligned so
I
far,
hope
and
so.
we wish you the very best.
Yeah.
Final message to especially the young people of Kenya and the political space.
Do not give up. This political space is very rough. It's very unforgiving. It's very thankless at some point. And sometimes it feels like you do not know what you're doing, but don't give up. There are times which you would want to rally people and people might not show up. Do not give up. There's times when you'll expect things to go right and they go left. Do not give up. As long as you're doing things for the greater good, as long as you believe in the things that you're doing, as long as you're doing it for the greater good of our motherland, it's going to work out. And it's expensive. So stop trying to do it on your own. Build alliances. We have to conspire as a generation to midwife the change that is coming, to be a part of the change that we seek. This thing of trying to be a loner, it does not work. Organize and mobilize within, find networks of people, because even some people who I currently disagree with are the people who've referred me to my best opportunities, because we've kept communication lines open. We might disagree in strategy, we might disagree in approach, but as long as our ideologies join us together, let's not close the lines. And if you're a young person, it's going to be rough, but I promise you that if you approach me, I'm going to help you as much as I can. And there are people who are willing to help you. There are friends you know nothing about will seek you and that will help you in your journey.
True that.
Yes.
Wow, Kasmuel.
Yeah.
McOure. That's how you pronounce.
McOure.
McOure, not
Yes.
McOure. McOure.
Yes.
It's been so much
It's
fun
been
having
beautiful.
you around.
Thank you very
I
much
hope
for
you
having me,
enjoyed Alpha House.
Absolutely.
And we are happy. Of course, I'm sure the people who are watching this have learned a thing or two.
Right.
And maybe will stop being judgmental, or even will become more judgmental.
Yes, because it helps us
with
to
it.
sharpen contradictions.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you so much to you who watched till the end. We will see you on the next episode. And of course, Kasmuel will be back sometimes in the future when he has gotten another something to update us on, yeah?
Yes,
That time
absolutely.
you
Most
won't be
definitely.
disappearing on us.
No. Most definitely.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you for watching. We'll catch you on the next episode.